So I've heard that the Percy Jackson adaptation is not great. But you gotta understand, I'm a part of the Avatar: The Last Airbender fandom, so I feel like I can take anything. And I figure now that I'm a part of this fandom and I'm actually really actively excited about the Disney Plus adaptation, it's time for me to pay my dues and watch this movie too. And you know, wasn't good. So in this video, I'm gonna talk about the things that I liked and didn't like in the Percy Jackson adaptation. One of these lists is a little bit longer than the other. And then in my next video, it will be another Percy Jackson video, and that's going to be what I would like to see from the upcoming adaptation. In this video, we're just gonna kick it right off with the characters because a lot was changed, and I want to be clear, I am the type, I don't really watch that many adaptations because I'm not really much of a movie or TV watcher, but every now and then I will, and when I do watch an adaptation, I am firmly in the camp of the characters don't have to look exactly like their book forms. The plot doesn't have to be scene for scene, shot for shot, exactly the same. The dialogue doesn't have to be exactly the same. Things can be cut, things can be mashed together. It's a different medium. It has to change. And I'm generally pretty merciful on adaptations as long as they're loyal to the core of what the story was. Do you know that this wasn't even the same story? Anyway, let's start with characters. So, our core three, they're really just not the same, are they? The first book, oh, my books are on the shelf. The first book starts off with Percy saying, I never wanted to be a half-blood. And in the books, Percy is witty and sarcastic and funny, but he's also in way over his head, crazy overwhelmed, and would have died 100 times over were it not for the combined efforts of his friends and his just generally very scrappy nature and being a very fast thinker. In the movie, he's kind of arrogant. In fact, he's pretty pompous. He has some special abilities given to him by his dad, and he just can conquer the world. He just feels like, I can do what I want. I don't need to listen to the counsel of others. I don't need to follow the rules, which is not like Percy Jackson is a rule follower, but my goodness, the man, it goes from being an underdog to, I'm pretty overpowered. I'm gonna save the world today. And what's weird is he's both overpowered and kind of underpowered too in the movie. As far as his abilities go, we see him from the very beginning holding his breath for 8 minutes underwater, and he now has healing abilities with the water, and just touching the water suddenly makes him like the best fighter ever, which is really interesting choice. But then at the same time in the books, he can breathe underwater, not just hold his breath for a really long time. So holding your breath for a long time is a useful skill, I suppose. It could come in handy, but it's not as powerful as breathing underwater. But also, he's powerful in other ways, like to an extreme amount. Walks into the camp, has no fighting ability, has no training whatsoever, and can take down the biggest, baddest, bestest fighter, Clarice. I mean, Annabeth? I don't know, it's just weird because I love that Percy is an underdog. I love that he has no knowledge of, well, very little knowledge of Greek mythology, and a lot of that information comes from Annabeth and how entrenched she is in it because she's grown up in Camp Half-Blood. I love that he's not the best fighter. I love that he can't just stick his hand in the water and then suddenly be able to do whatever. It's not the most egregious change in the world. It's not that big of a deal, but it is a weird choice. I really like how much he has to fight for things. I like that he doesn't know that much about Greek mythology, and he relies heavily on Annabeth and her knowledge to teach him things. I like that he's not the most clever character in the world. He's witty, he's scrappy, but he's not brilliant. He's not smart like Annabeth is. I like that he has deficits and he's not just like all powerful because I touched some water. Now, onto Annabeth. I know a lot of people are fussed over her hair. I genuinely just don't care. I don't need my actors to look exactly like their book forms. But As far as character goes, for whatever reason, she is now Annabeth Clarice. She is the best fighter in the series. She is the biggest, baddest one to defeat. And she goes from being the best and like, who's next? Who's gonna face me next? And everybody stands back and watches while she takes down everybody. She goes from that to being taken down with ease by the new guy because he touched some water again. So it's like, why are we even bringing Annabeth on the quest? Because we don't even really need her. Also, she doesn't do anything. She wasn't shown to be nearly as smart, as witty. This girl, I tell you, Annabeth in the books is so witty and sassy, and she will insult anybody at any point. She's got an agenda. She's got something to prove of herself. And in the books, in the movie, she's kind of just dead weight. She's just there. She doesn't even have her cap. And that's one of the most essential things. It gets them out of so many binds. Grover, I may be a little bit controversial in saying this, but I don't hate all of the changes with Grover. He in the books, he's this very fearful, timid character that faces those fears and overcomes those hurdles because what matters to him, which is finding Pan. Why did I forget Pan? Which is finding Pan and protecting Percy and the rest of his found family. These things are more important to him than anything. And so even though by nature he's very timid and fearful, he overcomes that over and over and over again. He presses past that fear and does heroic things, sometimes failing dreadfully. And then that failure, it eats him alive. It hurts him. It kills him when he fails to save someone. And it kills him when he fails to be able to protect, or when he's again and again not able to find Pan. In the movie, he's pretty cool. He's pretty chill. He's actually quite funny. And I'm gonna be the unpopular opinion here, I'm sure, but sometimes his humor really landed for me. And I don't hate this change. I don't hate that he's not just the scared, pimply, awkward kid that isn't able to do everything and has a lot of hurdles to overcome in order to be who he wants to be. I'm okay with him being a little bit more funny and a little bit more capable, but not completely removing the essence of what Grover has to overcome. It's ridiculous to just completely remove his biggest hurdle, his fear, and then just be like, he's fine, actually. He's super cool with rushing into danger and sacrificing himself. When Grover offers to stay in the Underworld in the books, it was such a great sacrifice for him to even consider doing that. In the movie, not only does he not care about being in danger, but also, I guess we'll get to it. Anyway, the characters were just not themselves. The core of who they were wasn't there. But that's not even the worst part. If that were it and the plot was pretty steady, then I would say, all right, it's fine. You're gonna change some things. I don't love all the changes, but oh well. But they actually just changed the entire plot too. We already talked about the fact that Percy is just like super powerful in this movie, but also there's no prophecy. I'm not even that big of a fan of the prophecy trope, but that's like what these books rely on. That's the core of the story. There's a prophecy for Percy or for someone for when he turns 16. He's already 16 in the movie. I don't care. There's a prophecy for him for when he turns 16. There's quests that they have to go on that's given to them by the mummy creature thing. This time we just have the Underlord popping into Camp Half-Blood in devil form and just being like, hey, come and get me, I guess. I stole your mom, so let's go. It is strange. It is strange that we go from there's a prophecy that Percy doesn't necessarily want, but accepts regardless, to I'm gonna break all the rules. Nobody wants me to go on this quest, but I'm gonna do it behind their backs and then be clapped on the back for it at the end. And Percy, who's brand new to the camp, who's had exactly zero training, who knows nothing about Greek mythology except for the little bits that he's learned in school that he was very distracted while he was learning, he's like, okay, I'm gonna disobey everybody, not take anyone's counsel, and go to the underworld to get my mom. Annabeth said a line, you win one fight and suddenly you think you can do anything? And yeah, basically, that is what his character is doing. Actually, speaking of Annabeth and Percy, can we talk about their relationship dynamic in this too? Because in the books, it's such a slow burn, two kids that don't know what to do with their emotions, enemies to friends to lovers. It's a great dynamic. And in the movie, we're just gonna bypass all that slow burn. We're gonna kick it off with, I have strong feelings about you. I just don't know if they're positive or negative. Let me know when you find out. Just like, they haven't even had any chemistry. They've barely had any scenes together, and she's admitting to having strong feelings for him. I don't even know. In the book, Annabeth is just like, you drool when you sleep. Like, it's just such an antagonistic relationship with her from the get-go, and it blossoms into, like I said in my video, What Makes Percy Jackson Great, it blossoms into a partnership. Wow, why did I try to quote myself and then immediately forget what my quote was? It blossoms into a partnership, but in the movie it's like, insta-love is where we like to be. We also had the whole dynamic of Luke saying, hey, let me go ahead and tell you how to get into the underworld and also tell you how to get out. Even though I don't want you to get out of the underworld, I hope that you won't, but I will find a way to offer the information to you on how to get out, even though you didn't ask. But it doesn't matter. So Luke tells him about these beads that Persephone uses that they can step on to get out, which is definitely a change. I'm actually pretty okay with this. We go on a quest to find a thing that will help us to do the thing that we want to do in the first place. Is a pretty standard plot. It's a lot of movies do this, and I really don't have any issue with it. And it's not that different from the books. Granted, they have the beads from the start, or no, Percy's dad gives him the beads. So they got it from the wrong place, but it's fine. It's not that big of a deal that they're gonna do it this way. They make all the correct stopping points, Medusa, the Lotus Casino, the Underworld. It's fine. And the beads are what they need in order to get out of the Underworld, so that's why they make those points instead of just they make them because they stumble on these locations. I'm really okay with this change. Them stumbling on Medusa because they're hungry, them stumbling on the casino. Like, in the books, it's just they're on a journey and they get roadblocks. In the movie, it's more intentional roadblocks that they face in order to be able to accomplish their goal. I think it's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with this. In fact, I thought it was kind of a fun change. I also kind of liked the Lotus Casino a little bit. At first, I was a little bit iffy about it, but I thought it was kind of fun that they were being entranced by the food instead of just being locked into games. I don't think that that's an egregious change. It's different, but does it matter that it's different? Not really. It's okay. The core of what that scene was doing was still done, and I'm fine with it. Do you know what I'm not fine with? Ares, or the lack thereof. One of the best parts of these books is the lore and the world building, the way that Rick ties in the Greek mythology into our real lives and makes it make sense. The different personalities that he gives to each of the gods, where it's authentic to the source material, but he also puts his own spin on their personalities that fits their characteristics that we already know about them, but is so uniquely his way of telling their stories. And Ares not necessarily being a villain, but distinctly being an antagonist just because of the nature of who he is a really interesting world building element that works its way into the plot. Instead, we just completely take Ares out of the movie and put all of his part of the plot onto Luke without actually building up Luke. We don't look at what a good guy he is. We don't look at how charming and sweet he is. We get a short scene of him doing that, but really it's not very much. We don't build up his relationship with Annabeth at all. In fact, Annabeth is totally chill with cutting him with a cursed blade at the end, which it's like a massive part of Annabeth's character that she trusts Luke and she has a deep bond with him and she doesn't want him to be bad and refuses to accept it and gives him chance after chance. And it's a massive part of her character dynamic and her conflict in the entire series, her relationship with Luke, and in the movie, they have no relationship whatsoever and she's totally chill with taking him down. Also, and Luke says his dad was a jerk and he never met him. Why even say that? Why even add that line? How are you going to address this in the last book when a huge part of the plot hinges on the fact that he does know who his dad is, he has interacted with him, and a big part of his arc is because he was left alone with his mom who wasn't fit to be raising him, which Annabeth knows about because she was there. Anyway, all of these things are just negated, and instead everything is piled onto Luke and on Hades, who is the bad guy now, instead of this dynamic of, Nico, I'm sorry I was a bad dad to you, I'm gonna try to be better. Instead it's like, mwahaha, king of the gods, take everybody down, I am bad. Kronos isn't even mentioned. Were they just gonna follow this plot thread through all the movies? Were they just gonna make Hades, who is arguably the best god in the series, they're just gonna make him the bad guy now? Also, and there are characters that are totally cut out of the series. Like I said, Annabeth and Clarice were just kind of compounded together, but we need Clarice. She's such a big part of the final battle. She's such an important character. Her personal individual arc is so valuable to the story and to the themes that Rick is exploring in this story. And Talia is also just not here, even though she's so essential to future plot lines. I mean, what were they planning to do by completely cutting out these characters? Were they going to introduce them super late, or were they just going to throw those character arcs on Luke too? There's more, but I think I should probably stop. There wasn't a lot that I liked about it. I do think that there were some great choices made. There were a lot of things that were condensed in the beginning of the movie that I thought were great choices. The scene with Mrs. Dobbs I thought was really great, and them telling him about the pen right off so that he could attack her, I thought was a great introduction to the pen to kind of just speed up the information we needed to be given in the beginning. Grover telling his mom right away everything that's happening instead of Percy leaving Grover behind and then Percy going off to the beach with his mom. We missed some characterization between Percy and his mom. We missed some of their relationship dynamics. We really don't get any characterization from his mom in the movie. So we lose out on some of the character stuff, but as far as the fact that, you know, this entire story is being crammed into 2 hours, condensing that and just moving things along faster like they did at the beginning, I think is all great. Like I said, changing the plot so that they have to seek out the beads so that they can get out of the underworld is a perfectly fine change. I do think it's stupid that they stopped at 3, even though they knew that there needed to be 4 people coming out of the underworld, but for whatever reason they didn't seek out a 4th bead. What even is that? You know what? Hang on. Let's keep talking about the underworld, because the underworld was my favorite part of the book, and it was okay in the movie. It's fine that you can't expand on it too much, but I would have liked a little bit more because it was my favorite part of the book. But then also, why is Percy's mom just totally chill with leaving a child behind in the underworld when Grover says, and he is quite young, when Grover, maybe, how old is he in the books? Whatever. When Grover says, I'm going to stay behind in the underworld, you go, his mom is just like, chill, peace, thanks so much, kid. I'll take your place in the world of the living. And why? Why did we even do this? Why did we even make that change? It undercut the character decisions, and there was no reason because Zeus just brings Grover back anyway. And that's another thing. A big change in Grover's character arc is instead of being wholly focused on Percy, he's regularly chasing after girls. And in this, it's not even a great sacrifice of Grover that he is facing fears, that he's genuinely a fearful guy, and he's making this incredible sacrifice for his friends, saying, it needs to be me. I need to be the one that stays behind. And this is such a big move for him. Instead, it's like, I'm gonna stay behind and have sex with Persephone? I don't get it. He said I was gonna stop, and then I immediately didn't stop. Whoops. This movie, on its own, without looking at it as an adaptation, just looking at it as a movie for people who have not read the books, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. It's not good, but it's not terrible. But it definitely wouldn't make me want to then go read the books. I wouldn't say, wow, that was a really cool story. I'd love to see the source material. Nah, I would say, that wasn't very good, but it didn't ruin my day. As an adaptation, it changed literally everything from the characters to the plot to the themes that are explored. Nothing is the same. The only thing they kept is the names of the characters. You can't call that an adaptation. I mostly just thought it was funny how much they chose to change, and so much of it for just no reason. But as an adaptation, it is truly not doing the book any favors, and I am excited to see what Disney Plus has to offer us because Rick seems really excited about it, which is very promising. And in the next video, I will be talking about what I would like to see from the Disney Plus adaptation. So please do chat with me about this in the comments. Did you enjoy the movie? Did you not like it? Why or why not? I post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I post vlog videos on the second channel on Thursdays. I'll see you again soon. Bye.